Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Okay, sorry. That's today's film. Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. The podcast being Aural Hygiene, where we look at educational films, experimental caught films, and weird documentaries. This one pretty much fits into the center stream of those, being quite a experimental freak fest. This is Matt. With me today is Mark Malek. Say hello, Mark Malek.
Hello, Mark Malek. I've got so much trouble on my mind, and I refuse to lose this podcast.
There we go. I set you up for it this time, so it made more sense than the last time you were on.
Yeah, and then I just went on the whatever tangent I felt like going on from there. So
This is
good.
I think this is so director Kenneth Anger. If you're not familiar, we'll try and have a few words about him, not being experts ourselves, but I do believe this is his first color film.
I don't know.
Okay, I do know. Okay, I'm doing this from memory, but I believe he had done Fireworks in the late 40s, which I watched maybe once. He did the first version of Rabbit's Moon before this, and I think this was next in his cavalcade of Magic Lantern films.
1953.
That's Magic, um, with a CK at the end. So
Yes.
that's the sex magic version. And he was a major proponent of Thelema and Crowley, which is kind of why this is our second attempt doing this. We tried to do it a few weeks ago and realized we were like in over our heads.
Yes, and I've done a little bit of research, and I'm just more in over my head than I was before. But I do have some understanding of what was happening in the film instead of just, ooh, there's that guy. Ooh, there's that guy. Ooh, there's that guy.
I don't envy you giving you this task this week, but yeah, tell us what happens in this film.
The inauguration of the Pleasure Dome.
That was a
That's what happens.
that's okay. Yeah, stuff happens in this film.
It's it's clearly a ceremony that is probably just made up. Well,
it's probably not
the
made of it.
backstory the backstory is that Kenneth Anger went to a Halloween party, and the theme was "Come as Your Madness."
That's a
And
good theme.
that it is, and that sort of inspired this, and you can basically see that it feels like a Halloween party.
Yeah, except one with a Thelema Halloween party. That's what I was saying. Like the ceremonial stuff, I would be willing to guess he nicked a fair amount of this. The
Yep.
woman is Alan Parsons' wife, so
Jack Parsons,
Jack Parsons,
different
Alan
Parsons.
Parsons is the rock and roll. Yes, Jack Parsons. Thank you, NASA
when
and Crowley.
when this was recorded, he had just died. He blew himself up with nitroglycerin, unless it was a magic attack by an enemy, possibly L. Ron Hubbard.
The best. I still haven't watched the movie The Master. I need to do that, but
It's fantastic.
yeah,
It's better than this. Sorry, Kenneth Anger.
the the best modern magic attack had to be Rudolph Hess and Crowley. And have you heard this story?
Which story is that? Is that the one where they keep like locking themselves out of the building or whatever it was?
Oh no. Hess had used back channels because he was pretty high up in the Nazi structure, right? He
Right.
was like Hitler's mystic, and
Okay.
he got to the point where he himself flew not a jet but a propeller plane and made it all the way to Scotland and got shot down. I think he was like planning to go talk to the royals and end the war. But when he landed, he was wearing this coat covered with Enochian symbols and stuff. So
okay.
and then he was like interrogated by Crowley and like was like nuts after that. So
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
I guess he was.
there are just so many stories.
I mean, he was nuts before that too, being a upper tier Nazi and running around wearing magic coats. But he became incoherent later, and yeah, he actually lived to be quite an old man, locked up in prison.
That's what happens. Um, so basically, Marjorie Cameron, who was the Scarlet Woman in this film and was the Scarlet Woman in real life, apparently just showed up on Jack Parsons' doorstep, not knowing how she got there. After he and L. Ron Hubbard did some kind of ritual to produce the Scarlet Woman so that they could give birth to the Antichrist. I'm not. I didn't. I didn't
Hubbard.
make that up.
No, I know you didn't. I was just like Parson and Hubbard were gonna have the Antichrist, or
No, they were going to perform the ritual, probably taking turns having sex with someone or other.
okay, so they wouldn't know which one was the data. Except you want to have a moon
No, it's
child, so you have to time it right.
yes. So you have to do all the ritual, and probably, I assume it was something like 60 days of saying something over and over and screaming at each other and waving
Yeah,
things around.
and there's a there's a it's very possible that Barbara Bush was Crowley's daughter or something,
Oh, okay,
because Barbara Bush's mother
that
had a wild fling with Crowley, and not long before Barbara Bush was born.
that makes a lot of sense. Of course, that happened.
Yeah,
But anyway,
I'd be
all that
disappointed if it didn't.
happened. All that happened before inauguration of the Pleasure Dome, because Jack Parsons was dead by then. So you
Yeah,
have
we're
to think in terms of
just trying to build the backstory of this film.
it is it is life imitating art, which is even or sorry, art imitating life, which is even weirder. It would be somehow less weird if they were trying to perform rituals after making this, but
getting
this is more of
getting
a mirror.
to the film itself, both of us had the same first note, I think. No, Kenneth, just anger.
Yeah, of course.
And you've got to be able to read backwards, as Crowley told you. Well, actually, just the credits run backwards, but that's kind of I would imagine it's a little Thelema touch. I don't know.
I I I don't know. That seems like maybe they just used an overhead projector, and that's why.
I think I mentioned this last time we spoke, but have you seen a recent picture of Kenneth Anger?
No, I still haven't.
Oh man, he looks like the crypt keeper now. But what blew my mind even more is he looked like a totally normal dude until about 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And
Well, I
then
do
was
know that I keep getting targeted ads for his jacket, Lucifer Rising jackets
it
that
is
just have like Lucifer and rainbow
no, I
fonts
know
in the
what you
back,
mean,
and they're
but
$300
oh, that's a little
starting
expensive.
at three. That's why I don't have one. It's like you're just wearing a thing on your back that says, "Remember those ads you saw? I have $300."
And then you get mugged and stabbed in the
Yeah,
heart.
yeah. It's like if the jacket was $40, I'd be like, "All right, cool."
And yeah, and then we see some dude with beads, and I think I wrote Kenneth will tell you where those beads are going, but then I was it wasn't the orifice I expected the beads to enter. He just ate them, so which is probably better, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose there isn't. It's just a product of the time where there wasn't like just straight up sex in this, even though it was just a big stream of metaphors.
Well, in this podcast, we did a Multiple Maniacs a few weeks ago, where we do
Oh.
have uh, a divine being pleasured by rosary beads in a church. So
Yeah, you can draw an almost straight line from Kenneth Anger to John Waters.
yeah, I was like, give this movie some John Waters style dialogue, and wow.
But yeah, Multiple Maniacs it's incredible how good the restoration looks.
Oh, and
Like, I
sorry
don't know
to
about
I did notice that link is I like to keep live links for this podcast. I did notice that one's dead, but it was a really nice print, so it doesn't surprise me.
well, that was probably the Criterion version,
It
which
was.
you
You
can get.
can, yeah, you can search, and you can find the crap looking videotape version on YouTube, but that one
Yeah.
has the benefit of having Elvis on the soundtrack, so there's that. But anyway, back
Yeah, the
to
crap looking video version is the only version I saw until the re-release. I guess that's the only version that existed.
but
Yes, so
I mean,
Satan is here, and
oh, that's
Satan
why we
is
have lots of red. Okay.
he's pretty flamboyant in this.
Yeah, I said we had no reason to assume this man is anywhere near the ballpark of sanity, but I'd argue listening to opera already puts you out of that ballpark. So,
Well, this film feels like an opera
yeah. Although,
because I'm not a huge opera fan, and opera does sort of feel like here's a bunch of people in front of you just being there,
yeah,
taking turns just being there, and that is how it feels.
I guess the main thing that this film really what really stands out in this film is sort of design or the fashion influences, because when is it the Scarlet Lady, it shows up looking like a genetic splice of Joan Crawford and Ziggy Stardust.
Yes.
So
Yes,
we got,
I wrote on my notes, looks like Moulin Rouge but cooler.
yeah, I was like, I wrote a decade too early. It's like 2 decades too early, but I kept expecting, Klaus Nomi to stroll in at any point.
Yeah, it feels very ahead of its time, which is makes it a lot more palatable, being
We bo-
having like no narrative basically.
and we both made pretty copious references to Rocky Horror, because we got the lady looking like Columbia almost exactly. We have a guy that looks almost exactly like Rocky Horror. So
That's true. I mean, it's got you could say that Thelema is like the origin of goth, and Rocky Horror was like the maybe the first mainstream goth thing that existed.
yeah, but goth is all. I see. I think of goth is all black and dark gray, where this is a intensely colorful movie.
Maybe glam is a better word than goth. I'm not good with genres.
Okay, I already went with Rocky Horror and Ziggy Stardust. So, and Klaus
Yeah,
Nomi
I
fits in
guess
there too. So
yes,
yeah,
glam.
I'm going to call that one out as glam then. Um, but in some of the photography, yeah, breaking some film rules. It's like fashion photography. Then it gets more surreal. Then it goes back.
Hmm.
Weird Enochian symbols. Um, and then the modern face mask, you can replace that mask you've been going to the store with this bird cage thing.
Oh, I intend to.
Yeah, actually you can't though, because it doesn't function unless you had like plastic, but
I'm
covering the
too
bird cage.
tall. I'm too
Yeah.
tall and I won't fit through the door.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
so yeah, lots of cool props here. Yeah, I so when you first watched this, did you think to yourself those people are all going to suffer because they're doing Satan stuff?
it didn't even occur to me they were doing Satan stuff the first time I saw it.
I thought it was pretty interesting that before I realized this had anything to do with Crowley or Thelema, that I was like, oh, they going to die. They're all going to die. And that's just sort of my Western mind, because all that stuff, Thelema is all about you do it, and
Do what thou wilt, who
yeah,
shall
you
be
do
the
what thou
whole
wilt,
of the law,
and that's it.
the whole of the law. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about punishment or suffering or penance or Catholic guilt or any of that stuff.
But there Kenneth Anger has sometimes been pigeonholed as being the head of actual Satanism, with Anton LaVey just being sort of like the wacky poster boy, more of a
Well, I mean,
shill.
LaVeyan Satanism is itself its own branch, so that there's, I think it's the Church
Like,
of Satan or Temple of Satan that's a different. I should have researched this, but
yeah, because I
Jack
mean,
Parsons was definitely a Satanist.
well, I
Oh,
that's kind of what I was gonna say though. That's where the whole Anton LaVey thing comes in. Now I'm not like saying, oh, actual Satanism is awesome, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like
I'll say it.
what you actually consider to be, what people generally consider to be Satanism is like nothing even close, really.
Well, Satanism is basically something that has satire built into it.
Right,
So
right. That's where the LaVey thing comes in. That adds, that like just makes it wacky, wacky Satanism for the masses. Throw them on the
yeah,
Hotel California album. Was that real? I don't remember.
well, well, people, people who criticize it are like, how can you worship Satan if if you believe in Satan, then you're a Christian, and it's like they're just immediately not getting the joke.
Yeah, they're worshiping themselves basically.
Yeah, exactly. That is basically it. And
Service to self, so
it's like
and
believe in
servicing
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah,
And
believe in yourself. Do no harm is also part of it. So you just build that into it, and you're not really the kind of. But the thing is that
and the and the
for everyone that gets the joke, there are people who don't, who are just going to point at it and shriek, and then take your
Hmm.
rap records away from you because they have curse words in them.
Right. And the booty hole is the portal to infinity.
Indeed, power bottoming is the way to true power.
Yeah. Well, that is the whole sex magic thing. That's not satire. That's
Indeed,
that's where Crowley was
no,
getting
that
himself
is
in
real. Well,
trouble.
yeah, I think you could definitely make the case that's. I feel like that would be an entire other podcast just trying to dissect what sex magic actually is and what it actually means. But
um,
yes, the true basis of magic is like creating your own reality, and that is you are creating a sticky, gross reality whenever you practice that.
Now, I do want to mention the vibe of this showing up in somewhere else that's pretty obscure, but I saw it a lot as a kid, and maybe you did because you'd be watching the same public TV. Do you remember a Canadian educational series called Read All About It?
Vaguely.
Okay. Anyway, the some of the people here look like the people on the alien or the interdimensional planet or whatever it was in that show. So, because that one terrified me when I was a toddler. I loved that show, by the way, but it was completely surreal. So
Yeah, it does feel like it feels very 70s. It feels like 70s television, which is
yeah,
interesting.
right. So well, again, it is a very influential film, especially like design wise. I should also mention the where it directly riffs things that did already exist because we got that guy that looks exactly like Nosferatu,
Hmm.
and another dude that looks like Caligari's somnambulist. I don't know if I'm
Well,
saying that word right.
and what I thought was some kind of like switched exposure of water, which is all the fire was like it's it's footage from L'Inferno, that silent film from I think 1914 in the background. Like he was using actual footage from a silent film,
Yeah.
Italian film.
And I guess the main issue with this, like I said, I hate opera, and I wonder if this, if this was done in the '70s, then he could get another Manson family member to do the soundtrack. That could have been hip.
Yeah, I'm as much as I do like agree with a lot of the core principles of the people who made this, I'm sure it's like ritual does bore me a lot, and opera also does. It's like I cannot picture myself um imposing my will in a way that would require me to read a bunch of esoteric stuff and then perform rituals.
Mm.
And and uh and opera is, I don't know, opera is a form of ritual.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, well, so is a symphony, and I'm perfectly
Hmm.
happy listening to a symphony. I hate that kind of
Uh,
singing for whatever reason. I mean, I
yeah,
don't like show tunes either for kind of the same reason.
I get it. I do like some musicals. I'll be perfectly frank, I haven't watched Hamilton yet, and I'm kind of afraid to, because I'm afraid I'll hate it.
Yeah, I'm actually in that same boat. So,
uh, yeah, I don't know how that would work for me. But yeah, there's part of opera being sort of ritualistic is that you have to do a certain amount of research to understand what's even happening, because it's probably not in your native language. I mean, I don't know if there's much English opera
well, that's
that
why I
you.
brought up show tunes. I feel like that's sort of, Gilbert and Sullivan, right?
Hmm.
That would be English
So you're not
opera.
the major martyr of a modern major general.
Hey, you're the one that started that up.
I've completely butchered it. So
I'm not going to try. I fuck up normal sentences on this podcast regularly. So
I fuck up normal sentences. A modern major general.
there we go. But yeah,
But
this
this
isn't.
is it's modern. That's the bottom line. Is this is Crowley's whole thing was he was trying to usher in, I think, the age of Horus. Was that
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
And like it or not, he did.
That's what I'll say. I think he probably did. So
He did. If you just draw, if even if you just sort of just sloppily go, well, Anger was his disciple, and then this led to read all about it, which scarred you, which made you start a podcast.
Yeah.
There you go.
I
There's
see. I was actually weird enough that I bought like weird bootleg DVDs of them, like around 2004 or something.
that is
Because
kind of weird.
YouTube was around, and that was the only way you're going to see it.
Right. Let's,
Just
thanks
before
YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah. So although I don't sit around watching it, but yeah, I mean, this isn't the anger film I usually go for, but like I said, it's kind of like it's at the start of his cycle, and I think Fireworks is the first one, but I just didn't feel like doing Fireworks because I mean, I'm not saying I don't like black and white, but I like seeing Kenneth Anger doing his his color films, and also Fireworks is like, well, to put like that film's really gay.
I was surprised that this was so non-gay. This
Yeah.
the
So,
inauguration of the Pleasure Dome. I thought it was just like, all right. I was like, where's it go? And then
Scorpio Rising is too. I don't mind that one. And then there's a short one which just it's like showing a bunch of dudes around motorcycles with like homoerotic vibes. That one's a lot of fun. But yeah,
I think
Fireworks is I guess it's too well, it's his first film, right? He wasn't like making films as well as he would later, although I guess there'd be plenty of people that would contest that he never made films well, but or at least not watchable.
or that maybe all of them are good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. But
Anyway, I just felt like this was the place to start my my angering, because we'll probably get to some more in the future, especially Lucifer Rising, because that is one I'll watch from time to time. And
yeah, you can get a jacket.
right, for $300. So
Yeah, this is a good place to start because it just is it's so ahead of its time, and it is, like you said, it's in color, and it but yeah, the all the gay stuff is just such a different context because we have as much as we grew up in a time where it was where things were a lot more stuffy than they are now. It's impossible to imagine what that would be like in like the 40s or 50s.
was about to say, because this film, just by sort of like letting it be its own thing, is already pretty wildly breaking the boundaries. And then this film basically is like fetishes, which also is not
Yeah,
really something that you do in the 50s. You're
yeah,
supposed to.
like I was saying, just them not getting punished for messing with the stuff is itself almost radical, even for the 70s. We were still doing morality plays until like the 70s was sort of when film got to where it was like we could have Taxi Driver and no one learns anything, and that's the scary part. It's just
No one learns anything here. They just usher in the age of
no,
Horus.
no, they learned how to inaugurate a pleasure dome.
Right, right.
That's it. And like I also put in my notes that the idea of the pleasure dome was based on Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem Kubla Khan, which is how Citizen Kane opens. So you could picture that these people were all having this orgy at like elderly Charles Foster Kane's mansion.
Okay, eyes wide shut stuff. There we go.
Yeah, you just tie that together.
I mean, if you got lots of money, you get weird, right? Because just buying that vacation's not going to do it for you, maybe.
If Kane was real, yeah, of course he would do this stuff. Like, yeah, why wouldn't he? It's almost, you'd be a fool not to bring people over to your home and invoke Satan and have a boob for a while hanging out.
I don't want to see Orson Welles' boob hanging out.
Well, you will when you inevitably do one of those films that has his boob in it.
Is that one of his like wine commercial outtakes where just like slowly starts pulling down his shirt to reveal his nipple?
Oh, I see you're looking at my nipple. Oh, my song.
So yeah, that could be fun. Um, any other points you want to throw on this as you're doing your impression there?
Hail Satan.
You just got real quiet.
Did I?
Yeah.
Hail Satan.
Oh, there. That's a little better. Okay. Do you want to tell people where to find you, or have you been up to any wacky shit?
Find me at the Pleasure Dome. I am. You'll find me at stunrunner.bandcamp.com. Music is there. You probably find me on this podcast as well.
Yeah. And I talk sci-fi flicks at Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary, MLSFS Pod at Twitter, Facebook, and those sort of things.
At MLSFS Pod.
Did I do that again?
You sort of did.
I left a
figure
pause. Yeah. Okay.
Also,
so
sometimes I'm on that podcast.
Yeah. So off we go into the pleasure dome for satanic ceremonies.